Defective as the old Confederation is, no one could deny that it was possible we might have a worse government. But the question was not whether the present Confederation be a bad one, but whether the proposed Constitution be a good one. Speech of Melancton Smith, June 20th, 1788. This is something that the founding sophists did, and their descendants continue to do to this very day. When we are taught about the original government of the United States, the Articles of Confederation, we are always taught about how bad it was, how weak it was, but we are never taught about any of the negatives of our current government. They teach us about the troubles of a government that is too weak, but they never once teach us about the troubles of a government that is too strong. But that's a topic for another video in this video series. I'm only mentioning it now to give you some food for thought, and because the topic I'm going to be discussing in this part of the video series is going to be rather brief. And that topic has to do with the number of people who vote. Outside of presidential elections, and even in some presidential elections, a majority of people don't even vote. And here's what a group of anti-federalists had to say about that happening in their time period. On December 18th, 1787, they said, quote, "We apprehend that no change can take place that will affect the internal government or constitution of this Commonwealth unless a majority of the people evidence a wish for such a change. But on examining the number of votes given for members of the present state convention, we find that of the upward of 70,000 free men who are entitled to vote in Pennsylvania, the whole convention has been elected by about 13,000 voters. And though 2/3 of the members of the convention have thought proper to ratify the proposed constitution, of those 2/3 were elected by the votes of only 6,800 free men." And so here the anti-federalists are rightfully arguing that in order to have a change take place in your government, in order for a vote to be considered a valid, legitimate vote, a majority of voters need to take part in that vote. You can't make a decision that affects the majority, that affects everyone, based off of the votes and the will of such a small minority. But this is what they did. And this is something that is done to this very day. The complete ignoring of the people who don't vote. As if them not voting isn't a clear sign of their disapproval. Instead of taking their not voting as a sign of their disapproval, they instead take their not voting as a sign of their approval. And they have the gall to tell people who don't vote that if you didn't vote, you can't complain. As if voters are given actual voting options. Well, I don't know about any of you, but I agree with what the anti-federalists said, that no change should be allowed, no vote should be counted unless a majority of people have asked for it. Votes that aren't casted at all should not be counted for it, it should always be counted against it. And only an unjust government run by sophists would think otherwise.